Caring for an elderly parent can be both a blessing and a burden. Many of us have taken on this responsibility, hoping to provide our aging parents a loving home and a better quality of life. However, the reality often involves unexpected challenges that strain our relationships, mental health, and finances. The following stories reveal the complexities and emotional struggles of this journey, offering a window into the lived experiences of those who share this difficult path.
Jane glanced at the clock. It was nearly midnight. Her mother's soft snores from the next room mingled with the hum of the dishwasher. She sighed, rubbing her temples. It had been 2 years since her mother moved in after the fall. Initially, Mark had been supportive, helping to set up the spare room and making her mother feel welcome. Their children, Sophie and Lucas, had been excited to have Grandma around, sharing stories and playing games. But over time, the dynamic shifted. Jane's mother required more and more of her attention. There were doctor's appointments, medications to manage, and increasing forgetfulness that demanded constant vigilance. Jane found herself stretched thin, trying to be everywhere at once. Mark's patience began to fray. He missed their late-night conversations and the quiet dinners after the kids went to bed. He felt like a distant second in Jane's life, a feeling that slowly turned into resentment. Sophie and Lucas, too, felt the change. Jane missed Sophie's school play and Lucas's soccer game, caught up in her mother's needs. The kids stopped asking her to come, sensing her absence even when she was physically present. The family dinners that once were filled with laughter now sat in silence, everyone lost in their thoughts. One evening, after another missed event, Mark finally spoke up. "Jane, we need to talk. This isn't working. We're losing each other." Jane's heart sank. She knew he was right, but felt trapped by her sense of duty. She loved her mother, but her family was suffering. Tears welled up as she looked at Mark, seeing the strain in his eyes. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. Mark took her hand. "We'll figure it out together. But we need to find a way to balance this, for us and for the kids." Jane nodded, her mind whirling with guilt, love, and confusion. As they sat in the quiet kitchen, the enormity of the situation loomed over them. There were no easy answers, only the heavy weight of decisions yet to be made.
Sam stared at the ceiling, the red digits of his alarm clock glowing at 3:17 a.m. He hadn't had a full night's sleep in months. The soft shuffle of footsteps outside his door signaled his father's nightly wanderings. Sam sighed, pushing back the covers and slipping out of bed. His father, once a vibrant man full of stories and laughter, now barely recognized him. Alzheimer's had stolen his father's memories, leaving Sam to care for a stranger who wore his father's face. The demands of caregiving were relentless. Sam balanced his job, the housework, and his father's needs, but the weight was crushing him. "Come on, Dad," Sam said gently, guiding his father back to bed. "It's late. You need to sleep." His father mumbled incoherently, eyes vacant, before settling back under the covers. Sam watched him for a moment, a pang of sorrow hitting him. He missed the man who had taught him to fish, who had been his rock. Now, Sam felt adrift, alone in his struggles. Days blurred into nights. The stress gnawed at Sam's mental health, leaving him irritable and exhausted. At work, he struggled to focus, and his mind was always on his father. Friends had drifted away, unable to understand the constant demands on Sam's time. He felt like he was drowning, and there was no lifeline in sight. One evening, as Sam sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands, his phone buzzed. It was a message from a colleague suggesting a support group for caregivers. Sam hesitated. He had always handled things on his own. But as he looked around the silent house, the isolation felt suffocating. That night, he made a decision. He would attend the meeting, if only to find someone who understood. Sam didn't know if it would help, but he had to try something. He couldn't keep losing himself in the process of caring for his father. The next morning, Sam guided his father through their routine with a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to manage this without completely losing himself. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, Sam felt a flicker of light at the end of the tunnel.
Lisa sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind a whirlwind of worry. Her mother, once a vibrant and independent woman, now lived with her, suffering from dementia. Every day brought a new challenge. Just yesterday, Lisa found the stove on, and a pot was burning. At the same time, her mother wandered aimlessly through the house, oblivious to the danger. The constant vigilance was wearing Lisa down. She worked from home, but her productivity had plummeted. Every time turning her back, she feared what she might find when she looked again. Her mother had started wandering off, once found by a neighbor 3 blocks away, confused and scared. Lisa knew she had to consider alternative care options. She couldn't keep her mother safe on her own. But every time she broached the subject, her mother became agitated, insisting she didn't need any help. The guilt gnawed at Lisa. She didn't want to feel like she was abandoning her mother, but the situation became untenable. One night, after another exhausting day, Lisa heard a noise downstairs. Her heart raced as she tiptoed to the kitchen. Her mother stood there, staring at the open refrigerator, its light casting an eerie glow. "Mom, it's late," Lisa said gently. "Let's get you back to bed." Her mother turned, confusion clouding her eyes. "I was looking for something," she mumbled. As Lisa guided her mother back to bed, she made a decision. Tomorrow, she would call the care facility. It was time. She couldn't do this alone anymore. The next morning, Lisa awoke to an unusual silence. Relief washed over her. No incidents, no wandering. She made her way to her mother's room, finding it empty. Panic surged. She checked every room, the backyard, even called the neighbors. Nothing. Finally, she found her mother sitting on the front porch, a suitcase by her side. "Mom, what are you doing?" Lisa asked, breathless. Her mother looked up, clarity in her eyes for the first time in months. "I packed my things. I know I'm not safe here, Lisa. I don't want to hurt you or myself anymore. Let's go to that place you mentioned." Lisa stood in stunned silence. The unexpected moment of lucidity broke her heart and gave her hope. Perhaps, together, they could navigate this new chapter.
Michael glanced at the stack of bills on the kitchen table, his shoulders heavy with stress. His mother had moved in 6 months after losing her home, and their finances were stretched thin. Every month was a balancing act, juggling the mortgage, utilities, and now the added costs of his mother's care. Anna entered the kitchen, her face drawn with worry. "Michael, we need to talk about the grocery budget. It's not adding up." Michael sighed, rubbing his temples. "I know, Anna. I'm trying to figure it out." The tension between them had grown since his mother's arrival. Anna worked long hours as a nurse, and Michael's job as a freelance graphic designer was inconsistent. The added responsibility of his mother's doctor visits, medications, and special diet had pushed them to the brink. Their evenings were spent coordinating schedules, often leading to heated arguments. "Did you remember to call the pharmacy about Mom's prescriptions?" Anna asked, her tone edged with frustration. "I did, but they're out of stock until next week," Michael replied, his patience wearing thin. "We'll have to make do until then." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "We can't keep living like this, Michael. Something has to change." Michael looked at his wife, feeling the weight of her words. He knew she was right, but the thought of placing his mother in a care facility filled him with guilt. "I don't want to send her away, Anna. She's my mom." "I know." Anna said softly, placing a hand on his. "But we need to think about what's best for all of us, including her." That night, Michael sat with his mother. "Mom, we need to talk," he began, his voice trembling. "We can't keep up with everything. It's not fair to you or Anna." His mother, frail but still sharp, nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about it too, Michael. Maybe it's time for me to consider assisted living. I don't want to be a burden." The words stung, but Michael knew it was the right decision. The next day, they toured a nearby facility, and by the end of the week, arrangements were made. On the day of the move, as they settled his mother into her new room, Michael felt a mix of sadness and relief. Anna squeezed his hand. "We did the right thing," she whispered. Driving home, the house felt lighter. The financial and logistical burdens had eased, but more importantly, their family bond felt stronger. They had faced the challenge together, and now they could breathe again.
Susan sat at the kitchen table, staring at the untouched cup of tea in front of her. The house was quiet, but her mind was anything but. Her mother, once so independent and strong, now needed constant care. Her brother Tom lived states away and rarely visited, leaving Susan to shoulder the burden alone. Every day was a struggle. Susan managed her job, her mother's appointments, medications, and the housework. The constant demands left her exhausted and frazzled. She loved her mother deeply, but the resentment gnawed at her, an unwelcome guest that refused to leave. The guilt was relentless. She felt it every time she looked at her mother, who seemed so fragile now. Susan had started to consider nursing home options, but the thought of abandoning her mother filled her with shame. Her mother had always been there for her. How could she even think of sending her away? One evening, as Susan was helping her mother to bed, her mother looked up at her, eyes filled with a rare moment of clarity. "Susan, you're tired. You can't do this all by yourself." Susan felt a lump in her throat. "I'm fine, Mom. Really?" Her mother shook her head. "No, you're not. I've been thinking. Maybe it's time to find a place where I can get the care I need. I don't want to be a burden." Tears welled up in Susan's eyes. "You're not a burden," she whispered, but deep down, she knew something had to change. The next day, she called Tom. "We need to talk about Mom," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't do this alone anymore." Tom was silent for a moment. "I'll come home next week," he finally said. "We'll figure this out together." Susan hung up the phone, a mix of relief and uncertainties washing over her. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a glimmer of hope. As she sat by her mother's side, holding her hand, the weight of the decision ahead loomed large. The path was unclear, but at least now she wasn't alone. As the evening shadows lengthened, Susan wondered if she could truly find a balance between guilt and responsibility. The answer remained elusive, hovering just out of reach, as ambiguous as the future itself.
David and Karen sat in their father's living room, the weight of their decision pressing down on them. Their father, once a robust man with a quick wit, had deteriorated significantly. His health issues required round-the-clock care, something neither sibling could provide. But the memory of his previous traumatic experience in a nursing home loomed large, making the decision even more agonizing. "We have to do what's best for him," Karen said, though her voice wavered. "This facility is different. They have excellent reviews, and the staff seems genuinely caring." David nodded, though doubt gnawed at him. "I know, but Dad is so resistant. The last time broke him. I can't bear to see him go through that again." They spent weeks touring various nursing homes, finally settling on one that felt right. It was clean, the staff were attentive, and the residents seemed content. Despite their father's protests, they moved him in, hoping they had made the right choice. Initially, their father's transition was rocky. He was sullen and withdrawn, rarely speaking to the staff or other residents. David and Karen visited daily, trying to reassure him and themselves. Slowly, he began to engage more, and there were glimmers of his old self. One afternoon, David received a call from the nursing home. His heart raced as he answered, fearing the worst, but the voice on the other end was cheerful. "Mr. Taylor, your father has been participating in our art therapy sessions. We'd love for you to come see his work." David was stunned. His father had never been interested in art. He called Karen, and they went to the facility together. Curiosity piqued. When they arrived, they were led to a bright room filled with paintings and sculptures. Their father stood proudly by a canvas, a painting of a serene landscape before him. His eyes sparkled with a vitality they hadn't seen in years. "Dad, this is amazing!" Karen exclaimed, tears in her eyes. Their father smiled, a genuine smile. "I found something here, something I never expected. Maybe this place isn't so bad after all." As they left the nursing home that day, David and Karen felt a weight lift off their shoulders. They had done the right thing. But as they walked to the car, David received a text message from the facility's director requesting an urgent meeting the next morning. Confused and anxious, David and Karen returned the next day, only to be informed that one of the staff members had been caught committing financial fraud. The employee had been stealing money from the residents' accounts, including their father's, by forging checks and manipulating account information. David looked at Karen, the fear and uncertainty flooding back. "What do we do now?" Karen took a deep breath. "We stay vigilant, David. For Dad's sake, we stay vigilant." They left the meeting with heavy hearts, the unexpected turn of events leaving them questioning everything once again. The stories of Jane, Sam, Lisa, Michael, Susan, and David reflect the emotional and logistical challenges of caring for aging parents. These experiences remind us that there are no easy answers or one-size-fits-all solutions. They highlight the emotional weight of caregiving and the conflicting feelings that accompany it. As you reflect on these stories, how would you respond to similar situations?